What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded Podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is Jason.
And I'm James.
How are you doing this week and this take, James?
This week and this take, I'm doing fine, Jason.
That's very, very good to hear, James. Obviously, listeners out there don't seem to really know what I'm banging on about. We originally recorded this episode last week, didn't we, James?
We did.
And it was meant to come out last week, wasn't it, James?
It was.
And for some obscure reason, unbeknownst to me, the settings on our little lovely recording device here were all about the shop, and it was horrifically distorted, despite the fact that we both have headphones on as we're recording. We're listening to ourselves talking, and it sounds absolutely fine. And as it did last week. Yet, when it came to editing time, it was completely and utterly unusable.
Yep.
So we're having to re-record. But of course, because we record ahead of time, we're now a week out of schedule. So apologies that there wasn't an episode last week. And the plagues of problems seem to be continuing today, don't they, Jack?
Indeed. Little technical hiccup there.
Yes, so we're not only a week late, we're also 3 takes in today.
Yeah.
Through multiple issues. So it's not going particularly well for us. But anyway, providing this has made it to the airwaves, James, we are back and we're going to be talking about Arcana Rising for the 4th time.
We are going to be talking about Arcana Rising for the 4th time.
Other than that, James, how are you this week, all joking aside?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, how's work been?
Work-ish.
Yeah. I mean, positive notes. We've had a week off from game clubs, which was great, but we had a game night of mine last night.
We did.
And me and you have been playing a bit more recently at my house.
We have.
And we've been playing a game that we're going to be talking about in the coming weeks, which is Flamecraft.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of that. Been really enjoying it. So, spoiler alert, we enjoy that game. So, look forward to that episode coming out. But short of that, James, should we just jump straight in and talk about Arcana Rising again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Here we go. Okay, guys, so Arcana Rising is an engine building and drafting game released by Grey Fox Games in 2021. The game is for 1 to 6 players aged 14 and up and has an estimated playtime of about 20 to 60 minutes. And at the time of the recording, this game can be purchased from a variety of online stores with a ridiculous range in prices, but the cheapest I managed to find it was about £35. In Arcana Rising, players are taking the role of powerful spellcasters in a competition to acquire arcane artifacts and cast mighty spells in an effort to gain knowledge and power. As they gather their mystical relics, they note the passing of the moons which amplify the powers of certain schools of magic, allowing wizards to cast spells at the peak of their power. There's a little synopsis of Arcana Rising, James, but what comes in the box when you purchase Arcana Rising?
Okay, Jason, in the box there are 108 spell cards, 102 resource tokens, 84 victory tokens, 10 moon tokens, 6 player mats, 6 score trackers, 1 casting board, 1 token bag, and a rulebook.
Excellent stuff. You're getting really used to reading these components lists out.
Do you see the way I just quick fired that off?
Yeah, I'm not even going to have to cut any air gaps out in that one.
That is the 4th time I've had to do that.
This is very, very true. Have you memorised it?
I could have probably just gone, yeah, it's got this, it's got that.
So let's talk about the components now. Before we go into this, James, I think it is fair to say that the version that we have here is indeed the Kickstarter deluxeified versions. All of the things you've just read out, they are from the retail version, but obviously we will talk about the deluxeified version as well. Okay, so let's chat about these components, James. Visually, how does the game come across to you?
I like the art style.
Mm-hmm.
It's very in keeping with the theme, very dark,
wizardy,
but dark wizardy, not happy wizardy. It's very
yeah. It's sort of later Harry Potter movies, not the first Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
Everything's not sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think theme-wise, it works for the game. It's not a theme that I particularly buy into, the whole sort of magic and all that kind of jazz. But this game actually belongs to my partner, who is totally into that theme. But yeah, visually, the game is really nice. It looks good on the table. Some of the components even scream quality when you look at them, but we'll move on to quality in a minute because there are other things that I would like to bring up about that. I get the feeling that you will be exactly the same.
Yep.
But I think really the way the game boards are laid out, the player boards, everything's very clear about what you do and when.
Yeah.
And it clearly breaks down the different phases within the game as well. So graphic design, really, really good. Visually, very, very nice. Rulebook, again, very, very easy to read. We seem to be doing really well at the moment, finding games that have good rulebooks.
Yep.
Another easy game to teach. Maybe not in the gateway category, but we'll cover that a bit more when we get to the game mechanics. So rulebook, no complaints, very, very good, very clear, very well illustrated. We've blasted through those 2 sections, James.
We have.
I don't think we're going to be able to do quite as quickly through the quality section. So, James, how is the quality of Arcana Rising?
Well, it depends which bit we're talking about, Jason, because the tokens are perfectly serviceable. They're like wooden meeples. They're almost shaped like a goblet, aren't they? I think that's what they're meant to be.
Yeah.
And they're different sizes. I think the score things are 1 and 5, aren't they?
Yeah, because it's for the resources ones that we're talking about.
Yeah, for the resources. So it's good that they're sized differently, but I think it's in the Kickstarter version, they're the same color, or very, very. They're like one shade different of blue.
So this is the first component that we're talking about, where we've got the deluxeified version. We've got the wooden meeple-esque type things. In the base version, they are punchboard tokens that are coloured 2 different colours. I think it's blue and orange.
Yep.
One's a blue and orange for the 5s.
Yep.
In the Kickstarter version with those deluxeified components, they are 2 very, very similar shades of blue.
Yep.
And I think we're talking 1 shade difference.
Yeah.
And the size difference is not big enough to really counteract the fact that they are essentially the same colour. So we do find quite often that they get mixed up, and it's very difficult to see at an arm's length as to what's what.
So that's the first niggle. Another positive, the moon tokens are, I think the best way I can describe those is think of a poker chip.
Yeah.
So they are quite durable. They're quite thick. They're not going to get easily damaged. And the central board is double layered punch board, so they slot into it, which is nice.
Yep, indeed. Yep.
And that segues us nicely into the boards, doesn't it, Jason?
Oh, yes.
Oh, the boards.
Yeah, so for context, the actual box that this comes in is not a standard 30 by 30 box. It's sort of a 20 by 10, I think, something like that, inches, but with a standard board game box depth. So the player boards and the central board, indeed, are foldable. And this is where problems have occurred. Because this is, I'm going to say everything that we're probably going to talk about is inherent problems that have come from the manufacture of this game and the quality control that's come from that.
I'm going to actually say, especially the folding boards, it's the actual design, the way they've actually done it as well. Yes, there are clearly problems in the quality control at the factory because the boards aren't cut straight. Let's say that one straight away.
So, when you are folding the boards, they are very clearly not flush.
Yeah.
They are off-centered and stuff like that, which, of course, to anyone who's ever come across something that isn't cut flush at a 90-degree angle and then tried to unfold it, what will essentially will happen, it will get to a certain point and it just will not go flat. And obviously, to play the game, you need it to be flat, which means putting pressure on it, which unfortunately then starts to tear away.
But also where it's not cut flush, they're rubbing against it. Every time they fold, they're rubbing against, which means that you're getting wear or excessive wear on the crease. But what I mean by the actual design is it's not a single piece of punch board that has been engineered to fold. It's like 2 separate bits of punch board, and then they've just stuck almost like a card backing on, and that's the fold.
Yeah.
So that's going to tear.
Yeah.
Yours is already tearing.
Yes, exactly. And this hasn't been played a stupid amount.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
we're fully aware now that the boards on this are not going to last, unfortunately, which is a real shame. So yeah, quality control is a problem.
Yeah, and the design of the fold is
Pretty bad. Yeah, there's no reinforcement to that fold at all.
Yeah, it's not durable, and like I said, it's not been played that much, and it looks like it's a well-used game.
Yeah, I mean, I've got games from when I was a kid that I used to unfold the boards constantly that are in better condition than this one. So not great, unfortunately, on that one. But yeah, I'm backing up what you said with the poker chip style moon tokens, which sit in the center board. That's really, really good. The center board is lovely, bar that design of folding with only minuscule amount of backing to it.
Yeah.
Especially with that center board, because obviously being dual layered, it's heavier, so it's going to tear quicker. But yeah, other than that, I don't want to bash on the quality of it too much, because that's kind of everything in the game. The punch board is serviceable. The artwork is holding up well. The card stock is good.
Yep.
Standard sort of linen finished cards. The normal tokens in the retail edition are fine for scoring. And this is actually something that James interestingly was reading out in the components, and then you pointed it out afterwards when we weren't recording. And that was one of the things that's listed on the retail thing is the 6 score trackers. In our game, we have 6 abacuses.
Yep.
To do that, and they're very, very nice. They're great. But in the retail version, as far as I'm aware, they are punchboard tokens to score your points. So what the 6 score trackers are, I'm not sure what's listed as 6 score trackers. So that's interesting.
Yep.
That's interesting. That might have just been an oversight on my part where I've written it down, but interesting to know. So don't expect, if you are going to buy the retail version, don't expect 6 abacuses.
Yeah,
because we are pretty sure they do not come with the retail edition. Shall we move on to gameplay, James?
Let's move on to gameplay.
Let's do it. How do you like the gameplay of the game?
I actually enjoy the game.
Cool.
Despite the fact that the theme doesn't really do anything for me, I still think it's a very good game.
Nice. Is there any particular pros or cons that you like and dislike about the game?
I find the drafting, the way they do the drafting, very interesting. So that should probably be the first point we talk about.
Yeah, because obviously that is one of the first things that we do in the game. Now, for the first couple of times we played this, we actually played this wrong.
We did.
Because we saw drafting and we thought, we know how to draft, so we did how we are used to drafting, which is obviously take a card, pass it on, take a card, pass it on, and build your hand to then start going through the individual phases of playing Magic and such. However, this game is different, James.
It is different.
As we found out, and we can actually talk about the 2 different ways that we've played it and which one we prefer.
Indeed.
So, talking about the proper way of doing it, the idea is you're drawn a hand from one of 3 decks, which are numbered 1, 2, and 3, very handily.
Yep.
Because the game is broken up into 3 rounds, and each round has 6 phases. And the idea is you get given your hand, and from that hand you have to decide to play a spell, which is basically taking a card from your hand and adding it to your tableau, or I think it's casting a spell, but for ease of talking, we'll just call it discarding, because you essentially discard a card.
Yep.
In order to cast the 2 active moons, which allow you to activate those particular disciplines on your tableau. Now, that's it. That's all you do on a turn. So how it works is, as we say, playing a spell is pretty easy. You play a spell, you pay its resource cost.
Yep.
How you get resources is actually by casting spells and gaining resources from the cards that you've activated that turn. But that's as simple as it is for adding a spell. It's play a spell, pay its resource cost, slide it under that discipline, and you're done.
Yep.
Casting a spell is, as we said, you discard a card, and then for every phase within that round, you have 2 active moons.
Yep. Which are also randomly drafted at the beginning of the round.
Indeed, yep. So all of that will always be different. That adds the replayability. You can then activate those 2 disciplines, and by doing that, you go from the top of that discipline all the way down, activating every single card that it says and doing what it says on the card.
Yep.
It's usually a case of gain resources here, do this, do that.
Yep.
Very, very simple. Other than the very last phase.
Yep, the 6th phase.
Which is the 6th phase, where there is no active moons, but what you actually do is activate the bottom
of every discipline.
Of every single discipline, if I'm correct, yes? So if there's no cards on a discipline, there's always just the standard one, which is usually gain a resource.
Yeah, gain whichever resource.
It's really good though because you're activating 6 cards.
Yeah,
it's a very, very good one to do. So that's it.
Yeah,
that's basically it. And the game is about building points, isn't it? Really, and that later on in the game you start getting cards coming out where you can gain extra points if you've got the most cards under potions.
Yeah,
or transfer blood money into gold, which is really good because at the end of the game, resources do get you points.
Yep, but blood
loses you points.
Indeed, it does. But yeah, going back to the drafting quickly, it's like, I like that idea that you're not building a hand. It's look at your hand, play a card, pass it on.
Yeah.
Then you go to the next phase of the moons. So it's just a different because you don't know what cards are going to come back for the end of the round. It's not, you're not looking at your hand and going, right, this is my hand. What am I going to do with it? It's, no, play one, pass it.
Yeah, see, I thought the way that we originally played it, drafting properly and having my entire hand visible to me.
Yep.
I thought I would prefer that because I could be far more strategic. But actually, the way the game is meant to be played with the whole play one, pass it on, round moves on and stuff like that, I really love it.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good way to do it.
It made it far more challenging to try and come up with a strategy, especially in that first round.
Yeah, because you can't plan ahead because you haven't got a complete hand to know what you're going to do. So it's like, I have no idea what I'm about to get.
Exactly, because for how I was drafting originally, I'd probably take 3 cards that I knew I wanted to play, and then 3 that I was either happy to essentially discard in order to cast, or 3 that I could play if I really needed to. Whereas, not having that foresight to know what was going on, that really added the nice challenge for me.
Indeed.
So, one thing I'm really going to big up for this game is the downtime between player turns is so minimal.
Yep.
Really, really good. And the other thing is because there's cards within the game that are player interaction, but it's not like take that interaction.
Yeah.
You might get an instant play card which says take a card from your player to your right's discard pile and add it to your tableau free of charge.
Yep.
Or they can do something, or another player can do something.
Yep.
There's always an added interest there as to what's going on someone else's turn.
There is. I also like the fact that, as we said, there are 3 rounds consisting of 6 phases. I like the fact that you've got those 1, 2, and 3 decks. So each round has its own deck, and the decks get progressively more powerful.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to choose what card you're either discarding or playing in that. The second round's hard, but the third round is like every card here is stupidly powerful.
Yeah,
and is going to get me lots of points, but I really need to activate this discipline. Because that's going to get me X amount of points.
Yep, I love that. And like as we have said several times, I like the fact that it's almost impossible to plan ahead because until that hand gets passed to you and you can only use 1 card from that hand, and it's like, right, what are you doing?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to do this, but I need to activate that discipline, or I need to put a card in that discipline. Don't have any cards for that discipline. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah,
exactly.
It's not like you can plan your whole turn out in one go, which you could the way we were playing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's great. Another pro for me is how easy this game is.
It is simple.
And really easy to teach. And 6 players, James. 1 to 6 players. Now, we haven't done a full 6-player game. We've primarily been playing this at 4 players. I think we've done 1 game at 5.
Yeah.
And yet, I've done 1 at 2. I've done 1 at 3. I've done most of them at 4, and the occasion, I think I've done 1 or possibly 2 at 5. And every single game has not felt long. It's not felt drawn out. And in the 5-player game that I played, or one of them, every single player bar me was new. Did not find it a challenge to teach them all. They all picked it up really, really quickly. And surprise, surprise, I lost, as I always do when I'm teaching new games, ironically. But for me, really easy to teach. Massive thumbs up for the player count, because this is another game that, say if I was doing an intro game night at a game club and I had 6 new players turn up, I know where I'm looking.
Yep.
I know what game I'm going to be breaking out. It's another game that sits right alongside the likes of Downforce because that high player count, ease of play, and not a long time to play it. So great. Thumbs up for me on that one. The drafting mechanic, I think we've splooged enough about that.
Indeed.
To say that I like that. And as I said, the downtime is fantastic. major pros for me. There's only really 2 cons for me in this game. I mean, and this one is a personal con. The theme. I passed this game by when my partner bought this. I completely overlooked this game because I looked at it. I was like, oh, it looks all right. It's magic. I don't really care. I would never have played this game if my partner hadn't have bought the game. Well, I mean, I probably would have played it if someone had asked me to play it, but
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it. No one had ever tried to get me to play it before. So I'm really, really glad that she bought it, and I'm glad I got to play it. But yeah, it is a bit of a con. If you're not into magic and all that, you are going to overlook the game. And the second con for me, and this one is a bit more important to me, and that is that I find the game can be pretty unforgiving if you make a mistake
Yeah.
or play something at the wrong time, especially late game.
Yes. I would agree with that 100%.
For example, there's been a couple of games where I think I was in the lead, but not by a lot, going into the last round, and I made I guess it wasn't an educated decision, but a decision to play a certain card at a certain time, and it ended up costing me the game because the way I'd done it, I didn't maximize the points I could have got.
Yep.
If I'd just waited. We're only talking one phase. If I'd waited one phase, we worked it out at the end, didn't we? It's like,
Yep.
if I'd waited one more phase, I probably would have got an extra 10 to 15 points, which would have just won me the game.
Indeed.
And I think it's the same in round 2 as well. If you play cards at the wrong time instead of activating and stuff like that,
Yeah.
if you're not clawing those points as and when you can, it is quite punishing.
Yeah. One other, I call it a niggle for me as well, is the evergreen cards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which they're in the botany discipline, I believe, or the plant, whichever one the plant
Yeah.
is, and they have a special mechanic where they activate every time you cast, not just when
Moon is
when
in
botany
ascendancy.
is in ascendancy. They're denoted by a small red dot on the side of the card, which is completely overlooked because they have a green sort of border, but the card is quite dark.
Yeah.
And it's a dark red. They've chosen it kind of just blends into the background.
Yeah.
It doesn't scream activate me.
No, and I think whenever we've talked about it, and a couple of other players have stated, is like it would have been better if they'd made the edge of the card red.
Yes.
Yeah, like a red ring around
I
the
kind
inner
of-
part of the card.
I kind of get why they didn't do that because it's also located right next to the blood discipline, which is red.
Yeah.
It's like the marker needs to be a lot more in your face to say, hey, remember to do this card every time.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's another one where it sort of ties into that whole, it's punishing if you do forget to do it, because a lot of them will get you extra point. Like I think back to a game we had with Dave.
Yep.
And he had at least 3 turns where he didn't activate his evergreen cards, and he had 3 of them.
Yep.
So he was missing a
I've done it.
stupid amount of resources, and also one of them was getting him victory points.
Yeah, every time I've had evergreens out, there's at least one phase where I've forgotten to do it because botany's not in ascendancy, and it's just
You
like,
don't think to look at it.
Even though I'm going along the tableau, it's that small, you just overlook it.
Yeah.
And then it's moved on to someone else's turn, and you go, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that needs to be much more clearly denoted on the card. It's like, hey, you do this every time you cast.
Yeah. I would, like I said, I personally would have kept the rest of the card the same, but the inner ring around the text, I would have made that text box maybe a glowing red.
Yeah.
You know, something like just something there's a bit more sort of, as you said, activate me.
Yeah, I don't know what the red dot is supposed to represent, but it's supposed to be something to do with the moon. It's like white. White would have been a perfect color to use because white isn't featured really anywhere else in the game. It's like, and that it's a bright color that would draw you to the card.
Exactly.
Like, oh yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So anything else you want to talk about with regards to the game mechanics or the way the game plays?
I think we've covered everything about it.
Anyone would think we've had this discussion before, James.
Yep.
We know exactly what we're going to say.
Indeed.
So we're going to move on to our final thoughts. James, what are your final thoughts for Arcana Rising? Who would you recommend the game for? And did you enjoy it?
Okay, final thoughts are gameplay-wise, this is a very good game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suffers from some horrific quality issues, and I can only go by what's in front of me. I don't know if later on down the line they resolved those quality issues, but I can only comment on the copy that we have in front of us. So yeah, really bad quality issues on those punch boards.
And I would definitely say, being that this is Grey Fox Games, I've never experienced a bad Grey Fox game. Especially with their quality. They're usually pretty good. So I am going to say that this is probably an abnormality in their production, but it's part of what we do. We're always honest.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, this game's amazing. You guys go and buy it and find that it's actually, the quality is terrible.
Yeah. And
we're here to be honest.
It's like disclaimer, we can only comment on the one that's in front of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it is an abnormality because everything else about this game is pretty good. Like, you've said, the art is beautiful. I can't think of another word to actually say, like the card art and things like that. They're really good quality images they've used. And it's not what I would call photo. It's more, I can't really describe the art style.
I'm not sure how I
Gothic
would
magic.
It. Yeah. I mean, you could probably go imagine Magic the Gathering style art. When you think about it, it's very, very similar to me anyway.
Yeah, it's not quite as... I mean, I'm going to probably annoy every Magic player who listens because I can't stand Magic the Gathering. From what I've seen, it's not quite as cartoony as the Magic the Gathering. It's got a more graphic novel art style to it, but it's still very, like I said, very dark magic.
Yeah. Grimdark.
Yeah.
As we like to say within the hobby, I suppose.
Magic aspects. But yeah, everything else about it seems okay. It's just those punch boards.
Yeah, they are a bit shocking.
I'd recommend this game. Like you said, it would make a brilliant intro game for people that's learning because it is super simple to pick up. But I think more experienced players would also enjoy it because of there is a level of thinkiness to it.
Yeah.
Gamers of all stripes would probably enjoy it. I'm with you on the theme. It's like I would pass this game by because I'm not a Magic fan at all, and that would be a mistake because the gameplay is very good.
Yeah, nice, very good comments there. So for me, I'm going to agree with pretty much everything you said there. This will be the last time I will mention the quality, but I have to mention it because every single person we've played with has completely overlooked the beauty of this game, and all they've seen is bad quality. That's all they've mentioned. They've not mentioned the amazing artwork or anything like that. It's like, oh, those game boards are a bit poor, and that's a shame because this game has so much to offer.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone that we have played the game with has really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, the theme isn't fully for me. However, now having played this game quite a few times, if anyone wants to play this game and they say, I'd like to play Arcana Rising, you won't hear me saying no. I will always play this game. So that being said, I have to take into account the quality control when it came to my Meeple rating, but the gameplay definitely brought it back up for me, and I am going to give Arcana Rising a 7 out of 10. And I can't emphasize enough that the gameplay saved this game for me. If we weren't talking about the gameplay, it would be well below the 5. So what about you, James? What's your Meeple rating?
I'm going to go a little bit lower than you, Jason, because, and I will justify my reasons in a minute, I'm going to give Arcana Rising a 6.
Okay, yep.
And that is, I'd like to preface this with, it is not a bad gameplay. If someone offers you the opportunity to play this game, play it, because you will enjoy it. My Meeple rating is more based on a potential purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I cannot overlook those quality issues, especially as if I can't remember if you mentioned it during your original intro. Is this game's RRP 35?
The cheapest I found it for is 35.
35. So £35 should not have
quality
issues like that.
If we're going to talk about that, let's just say working it out, because I saw prices up to 70, 80. So we're talking that's extreme.
That's extreme. Average. Do not buy it for that price.
No, average, I'm going to round it off and say 40. 40.
Yeah. So I'm really strict when it comes to these kind of things, and quality issues of that issue in a game that's averaging £35 to £40 is unacceptable is the word I would use for that.
Yeah, and I think we've seen enough recently to prove that games that are on the cheaper end, the £20 mark, have been exceptional with their quality.
With things like that. And it's like you've got all these other components in there that are of good quality. What happened with those punch boards.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Someone dropped the ball there quite badly, but yeah, so I've got to bring it in at a 6.
Okay, 6 out of 10 for you, 7 out of 10 for me for Arcana Rising by Grey Fox Games. Again, I think we're both in agreement here. The game is pretty good, but the quality has let it down a little bit. But if any of you guys have had any experience with Arcana Rising, have you got the retail edition? We would love, and I mean love, to hear, did they fix the quality control issues before it went to retail? Let us know on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or on our Discord server. Links to those will be in the podcast description. Shall we hand over to the man in the news shed?
Let's do it, Jason.
Let's do it. Over to you, Paul.
Hang on, don't move. It's working. Nope, I think we've done it. Thank God, that's the computer back together. Technical difficulties, more like rocket science, getting this thing back together and running. When I told you we were gutting the shed last week to tidy up, I didn't mean the entire contents of the computer tower too. Okay, I'll be a little bit more specific next time. Hang on, what do you mean we've got bits left? Well, I don't know where they go. Hang on, that's an actual chip from last night's dinner. You can throw that away. Or eat it. Look, everything's working at the moment, so only one thing left to test. Well, it's either going to start the news or blow something up. Anyway, here goes. Hit it. First teased at Gamma Expo 2022, Wizkids is set to release a new game, Marvel Age of Heroes, in March 2023. Marvel Age of Heroes is a 2 to 5 player worker placement game from Lords of Waterdeep co-designer Rodney Thompson. Marvel Age of Heroes is an epic strategy game in which each player commands a duo of X-Men, including fan favourites Wolverine and Jubilee, Jean Grey and Cyclops, Forge and Storm, along with many, many more, who are dispatched to defeat villains and complete objectives. Become a master telepath, as cards and player boards have a gorgeous dreamscape artifact, as if a powerful telepath is seeing them through Cerebro. And talking about Wizkids, designer J.B.Howell, who worked on titles such as Chio's Secret, Flotilla and Gates of Mara, has a new game set to be released in April next year by the name of SiliconVania. Given the title, SiliconVania sees the Vampire Council looking to hire a new city planner to turn Transylvania, the most legendary vampire town in the world, into the world's newest tech haven. You and your rivals are competing to land a job that will ask you to create a diverse cityscape for vampire and animal life, provide plenty of blood banks for your citizens, secure contracts, and bring aboard the best specialists in the industry. The race is on to present to the Vampire Council the most organised plans for the city to renovate Transylvania into SiliconVania. Plaid Games continues to cement its claim as the small animal protagonist amongst the board gaming market with another critter-driven game in the form of Hickory Dickory from first-time designer Sawyer West. In Hickory Dickory, players control a team of mice competing in a royal scavenger hunt hosted by Lord Cuckoo. The mice will ride on a Cuckoo's Clock minute hand as they search for items that match their hunt card. The adorable mice will jump off the hand to collect item tiles and perform various actions that will help them gain berries, or victory points. Once the clock strikes midnight, the hunt is over and the mice will show off their scavenger hunt cards to Lord Cuckoo. Berries will be rewarded for rows and columns completed on their hunt card, and the mice team with the most berries wins. In amongst the celebrations of winning this year's Kennerspiel des Jahres, Living Forest, designed by Ask Christensen and published by Ludonaute, was the announcement of the first expansion to Living Forest as the Japanese tree spirits join the fight in Living Forest Kodama. The dreadful Onibi has upped his game and never been more dangerous. Not only does he continue his ferocious attack on the sacred tree, but he is also coming for the Circle of Spirits. But the spirits of nature aren't fighting alone. Sankey has sent small beings of light, the Kodama, to help them face this growing threat. With 10 new guardian animals joining the fray alongside 6 new trees, your defense against Tsunabe has just had an upgrade. There will also be a solo mode included. The holidays are nearly upon us, and as is tradition of late, Games Workshop has launched a new span of Battle Force boxes for both Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. The differences between a Battle Force box and any other collection of sprues might not be readily evident, but that's partly by design. Battle Force products collect previously released squads, individual figures and other minis into something meant to give players a fairly complete 2,000 point army. That's why the represented factions tend to follow Games Workshop's product line from the past couple of years and lean on the most recent codex books to hit the market. Battle Force can be a great opportunity for those who save their wargaming funds all year or players ready to invest in a big army on their first go. Fans of Upper Deck's 2-player game system Versus have a new set incoming to help them on their way, based on the Amazon Prime series The Boys. According to the publisher, the upcoming set will feature both recognisable characters and key moments from the Amazon Prime series. Several characters have already been confirmed to be included in the set, such as Billy Butcher, the revenge-driven anti-hero played by Carl Urban, the superpowered Homelander, played by Anthony Starr, and Starlight, a hero attempting to navigate the murky waters of the Boys world, played by Annie January. Other important characters from the TV series will be featured in the card set, alongside several key moments from throughout the show. The set itself will include 200 cards that will depict imagery taken straight from the Boys, with players able to employ the various soups, their allies and other associated elements against their opponents. Online PC store and platform Steam has announced a slew of discounts available on digital versions of board games in what it's calling Tabletop Gathering 2022, and co-organised by Monster Couch Studio, the developer and co-publisher behind the digital board game version of Wingspan. The event involves more than 100 developers behind digital versions of tabletop games or video games that are otherwise heavily inspired by tabletop titles. Among the titles on offer are unsurprisingly Wingspan Digital, currently available for £8.49, Talisman Digital Edition, currently available for £1.29, Smash Up is currently discounted to £2.59, and Mystic Veil for £5.14. Tabletop Gathering 2022 is currently live, with an end date yet to be announced. And this week's main news: Atomic Mass Games, responsible for the dogfighting hit X-Wing, the Space Fleet game Armada, and the ground-based wargame Legion, alongside Marvel-based miniatures game Crisis Protocol, have announced their newest title, and they've not strayed too far from the back catalogue. Introducing Star Wars Shatterpoint, a skirmish-level miniatures battler in development, starring handfuls of familiar characters and inspired by the sci-fi series' classic cartoons. Compared to the larger armies of something like Warhammer or Legion, Shatterpoint will use fairly small numbers of models on the table. These models will form strike teams made up of famous faces from the galaxy far, far away, including the likes of Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan, Asajj Ventress, Luminari Undula, and Lord Maul. These characters can be paired with thematic squads of followers such as Mandalorian Super Commandos, Battle Droids and Clone Troopers, or be mixed and matched into custom teams using dedicated squad building rules. And if those names aren't familiar, that probably means you haven't seen Star Wars animated spin-off The Clone Wars, or the various TV series that have since expanded on the prequel lore and characters seen in the long-running cartoon, such as recent live-action series The Mandalorian. According to Shatterpoint's designers, the game draws heavily from the series' animated adaptations, including Clone Wars and older cartoons predating The Phantom Menace, seen in the stylized sculpts in its models. Atomic Mass's director of product development, Will Schick, said, "The design and development of the Star Wars Shatterpoint miniatures game is really our love letter to the excitement and energy of being a kid on Saturday mornings. We wanted to take all the great things about Star Wars, the action, the adventure and the iconic characters to create a Star Wars miniatures game experience that felt like it had come straight out of the animated lineups of the 80s and 90s. First teasers show off more familiar faces from the Star Wars prequel movies in plastic form, including General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Count Dooku, Jango Fett and Anakin Skywalker. Battles in Shatterpoint will centre on a set mission of objectives said to dynamically evolve over the course of each match. Characters will be able to use unique abilities and a variety of combat skills as they compete to complete each objective first. Star Wars Shatterpoint is due to release in June 2023. Its exact contents and its price are yet to be announced, although a box shot has been released featuring Ahsoka Tano and Anakin on the side of the Jedi battling Sith warriors Maul and Asajj Ventress. This week on crowdfunding has looking forward to the end of the cold nights and ahead to spring in Survival of the Fattest by first-time publisher Dirty Rascal Games, and this is over on Kickstarter. The game is for 1 to 4 players and can be played in roughly an hour and can be played by your own critters from 8 years old. Old Grizz slowly opened one sleepy eye and peered out of his den. The snow had all but melted in the warm sunshine and the smell of spring filled the air. The old bear found no joy in the beautiful scene though. He had survived enough winters to know that work lay ahead. His mind reluctantly turned to thoughts of hunting and hoarding, stashing as much food as possible while the woodland was awake and bountiful. The bear's brooding was interrupted by an annoyingly cheerful voice. "Look, honey, another big juicy berry. This will be our biggest stash yet." It was those two ridiculously radiant rabbits, Honey and Buns. As he watched the little bunnies annoyingly bounce from bush to bush, a cunning plan started to form. Maybe he wouldn't have to make such an effort this year. After all, there were plenty of other critters already hard at work. Old Grizz pondered this new revelation. If he could apply a little pressure, maybe twist a tail or two, he might just be able to convince his new best friends to share. In Survival of the Fattest, you take on the role of a woodland critter and use your unique tricks and abilities to forage for food. Spend your gathered food to complete delicious recipes from the market for in-game bonuses and end-game victory points. After 3 seasons, if you fed your critter and accumulated the most victory points, you shall be declared the winner. Survivor of the Fattest is a visually stunning family-weight game using action selection, hand management and unique critter abilities. The standard edition of the game comes in at £40, which will get you going with everything you need to play, together with any unlocked stretch goals associated with that standard edition. Or you can up your pledge to £57 and you'll get a plethora of extras, which include miniatures of all the critters to replace the standees in the standard pledge, an extra character, Rascal, 3 mini expansions, more component upgrades, and obviously all the unlocked stretch goals associated with the deluxe edition of the game. A slew of add-ons can be incorporated into your pledge, including extra copies of the game, the expansions, and indeed card sleeves. And looking on at events, to those of you who are local here in Sussex, just to mention that my own group, Mid Sussex Meeples, has its Games Day this coming Sunday, 20th of November. We're in the same location here at Cypress Hall, Cypress Road, Burgess Hill, West Sussex, RH158DX. We're still just £5 per head for the day, which starts at 10 AM and runs through to 6 PM. with tea, coffee, squash, biscuits, and maybe a treat or two, as it's our last event of 2022. We look forward to seeing all who are able and willing to attend. That's not to say we're the only ones running a game day on the 20th locally. Worthing board gamers have also joined the fray by hosting their first games day, but they have apologised already for clashing with mine. Theirs will be held at 3rd Worthing Scout Group Hut, St Andrews High School, Sackville Road, BN 14 8BQ. And taking notes from the other group, they've gone with the same format, with refreshments available and just £5 per head for the day. Although they will be running a little longer than us, from 10 AM through to 7 PM, so may be able to squeeze a game of Twilight Imperium in, if you're lucky. Well, we look like we got through that unscathed, didn't we? Right, we better sign off before you jinx it. Yeah, you, I'm looking at you. Right, say goodbye to everyone. And it's a goodbye from me. Keep safe, Meeples. Keep those dice rolling, the cards shuffling, and we'll be right here for you next week.
Thank you very much there, Paul, and thank you guys for joining us once again for another game highlight episode a week later than we planned it to be, James.
Indeed.
But how do you think this one went?
Hopefully well, because we thought the last one went well.
This is very, very true indeed. I think before we go anywhere tonight, we might have to have a listen back to
Indeed. I was going to say, if you listen to the outro, or if you could bear to listen to the outro of the old one without it distorting like hell, I believe we said exactly the same thing. How did you think this one went? Oh, I think it went really well.
Yeah. Well, I don't think my eardrums can take the listening to that other one, especially as you got to think, I played a little snippet for you before we went live today. That was on my computer speakers.
Yep.
I usually listen to it through my studio headphones.
Yep.
And because I'm doing my best to try and get rid of all of the minuscule noises, I usually have it cranked right up so I can hear every little pin drop.
I bet that woke you up.
It did indeed. It's probably a good thing I wasn't working a couple of days after that. Let's put it that way. But
Has the ringing stopped yet?
Well, I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, I probably had is it tinnitus?
Yes.
From years of being in a heavy metal band. So I'm pretty sure my hearing's shot anyway. But yeah, if I can't take it, I think I've spared the world.
Indeed.
Some true pain there. But yes, we're gonna head off, James, because one, I've got to get you home because your car is unfortunately off the road again.
It is indeed.
But yeah, hopefully it'll be back on the road very, very soon.
Indeed.
And also we might try and break out another couple of games at some point.
Well, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, the hard thing is, James, we've done this entire episode with that Flamecraft board sat.
Yeah,
Sat
I
just there.
I noticed that you hadn't put it away, just sitting there teasing me.
Indeed. I mean, it might end up back on the table. Who knows? But anyway, we are going to be talking about Flamecraft in a couple of weeks, maybe next week. Who knows?
Who knows?
It's going to happen at some point. But yeah, once again, I do apologise.
Who knows? Wink, wink.
Yeah, wink, wink. Once again, I do apologise for the fact that we did not get this episode out last week. But hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, literally doing all of those things right now that this recording has come out okay. All of those things said, till next week, I have been Jason.
And I've been James.
You've been listening to the Meeple Minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta and goodbye.